but also you have to balance. You are this police officer, and there's a certain expectation and responsibilities that come from a police officer. I don't know, man. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I couldn't do it, man, because I think the streets would influence too much, man. Like, nah, man, like this. It just ain't never been cool, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Plus, you a little bit of a hothead.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. Nah, never mind.
You be done popped a few.
You be out here like the Wire, dog. Man, robbing drug dealers.
Hey,
he'd be like Denzel, man. He'd be riding around all clean.
Oh, I was just gonna say Alonzo, man.
Yeah. He was clearly
It wasn't until I got a little older that I realized that was only one day with Alonzo.
That was a hell of a day, man. That was a hell of a day.
Hops and Stocks podcast is presented by 100 Spoke Media Group. We encourage our listeners to drink responsibly. Please note, we are not financial advisors. We do not offer or provide financial advice.
I'm Spoke affiliated from the city of Jim.
Welcome back to the Hops and Stocks podcast, brought to you by 100 Spoke Media Group. This is episode 77. We will have a special guest today, Quion Wheeler. So he should be joining us here pretty soon. Our man Doug couldn't join tonight, dealing with some weather-related issues.
Shout out to that man.
Yeah. So
man.
How's everybody's week going?
Good. Fridays is Friday. I'm not off, so it is what it is.
Oh, we got Quion on right now.
Here he is.
Just in the building.
What's happening, brother?
Muted. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Good.
We literally just introed the show, so we about to kick off these two beer reviews. Then we go slide it to you and hop into this conversation. I'm saying so.
Oh, you're not even cracked me though.
You heard that?
I mean, I see you. Like this man is like.
I was trying to be low.
I mean, you know it's your time.
Right. I was about to say how we always do about this time, but this man's not even ready for his time.
I thought Eric was gonna give me a little bit of leeway.
Nah, man. When you see them shoulders up like that, you know a man's cracking.
Hey, so
I'm ready now.
Let me properly introduce my guy, like we always do about this time, Mr. What's in This Can. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, so definitely gonna talk about this one. This is ISO Heaven. As Eric said in pre-pod, it looks like a tattoo artist did it, and he's exactly right. It's an Indian Pale Ale IPA 7.2. It's from Toxic Brew in the Oregon district. If you've been to Dayton, Ohio, you've been to Oregon. It's right next to Ned Peppers. I poured him up on camera, try to be low. And you see that?
It's a solid pour.
Say something about that. Say something about that glass, eh?
No, nobody's saying nothing about it because you always do this when we got somebody from Michigan on. You want to try to show out in front of company, man. Like you already know what the energy is when you do that, man. So go.
He normally hates.
Man, go ahead, man.
See how mad he get. But anyway, y'all see what it is. That
can't arrest you in Ohio, man.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious. You see that maize color? It's kind of strong. At 7.2, I didn't expect it to be that strong, but it's got a little bit of bite on the back end. I like this IPA. I mean, it ain't do too much to it. It's pretty much right on par with all of them. All the other ones just got a little bit more bite to it. Solid 4. Had a bad experience at this brewery last time. Me and E had to walk out on them, but it's a solid offering from them. So once again, this is ISO Heaven IPA 7.2 Toxic Brew, solid 4.
Looks like their artwork is right on par with your experience there.
Yeah, definitely. What you got there, Blast?
All right, man. I'm excited. I got probably my favorite brewery in the house with me tonight. That's Southern Tier, checking in out of Lakewood, New York. I bought a challenge to the table. Tonight we got the Peanut Butter Cup Imperial Stout, 10%. We all know who's the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to peanut butter stouts. That would be UA. Like I said, this is probably my favorite brewery. I haven't had too many misses from there. So I'm excited to see what this tastes like. Although I will say the initial nose, not anymore, the nose is great, but the initial nose came off a little bit chemically. So hopefully that didn't translate into the brew, but we'll see. Yeah, it smells amazing. We'll see now, though. Oh,
What?
yeah. I think we got a contender.
I still have some UA, so I'll go buy some and we can do it blind.
Yeah, I might go by and pick up some more just so we all can have the experience. It's 10%, and that's not where it's light in the ass. It's a little light in the ass on that feel that you guys talk about. It's just not as thick as you'd like it to be. But flavor wise, it's there. I don't know so much if you're getting peanut butter, but you're definitely getting that peanut taste. And then, with most stouts, there's always a little bit of a chocolateness to it. So I think you got a good blend going here. Not too overly jig. I do wish the actual liquid was a little heavier.
That's a porter? Or a stout? It's a stout?
Stout, Imperial Stout, yeah. I like this joint, man. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. There is a slightly maybe off-putting taste. I don't know if that's the PB or whatever they use to make that flavor, but it's not as bad as what it initially smelled when I opened the cap. But I do think there's a little bit of kind of a chemical taste, whatever it was they did to make the flavor, but it's still a good beer. So yeah, I stick with 4.5.
Solid.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you guys think about it. I'll definitely pick up a couple more.
Dig it. I can dig it. I'm gonna forego my beer review tonight, but I do want to give a shout out to my dude Drew, who slid me this can. It's called Fire. It's by Firestone. Harabolita, and it's a salted caramel barrel aged stout with vanilla beans, cocoa nibs, and sea salt. Checking in at 9.2, and they're out of Paso Robles, California. I may chime back in later. It's only been open for about 40 minutes, so I want to, let it marinate a little bit.
It's funny how you say you're gonna bypass the review, but then do a review. I
said nothing about it. I just
only thing you didn't do is rate it. What you said?
I didn't tell you nothing about what I thought about this beer, man. I just told you what it was. You was really showing out for company, man. But man, like I said earlier, we want to introduce, our guest, Quion Wheeler. Quion is a police officer in Michigan and recently published author. I was fortunate enough to pick up the book 2 weeks ago, but true transparency, I didn't get a chance to read it until last night. But it speaks to the quality of the book, because I got all the way through like 100 and some odd pages, right up until you got to the point where you start having people write letters to you. So I think I got the crust of the book read. So Quion, we want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. But let me give a little bit backstory. Quion is a friend of Jay Brown, who's been on the show, AC's brother, who's been on the show 3 times. And Jay commented on an episode that we did related to the Tyree Nichols case. And he was like, man, you need to holler at my dude, Quion. And I'm like, okay. He was like, man, you know, he was a police officer with the Flint, Michigan PD, and he got a story to tell. So I was like, bet. I was like, this should make for good content. So man, I'm excited to talk to you. I took notes on your book last night. So I got questions. We ain't gonna light into you too much, man, but we do want to obviously talk about, you know, your background and things you've been through, and then you can hop into some more of the current events and get your perspective on what's going on in the climate of, you know, policing in America.
For sure. So, Quion Wheeler. I'm a Flint, Michigan native. I worked for the Flint 2017 to 2021 years there. Prior to getting on the Flint Police Department, they're retired from the Flint Police Department back in 2010. He just recently retired within like the last year. So I police. So once I graduated college, you know, where I went to U of M, that's actually where I met Jay Brown. He was like one of my mentors there. From U of M. After my second degree, I really didn't know what to get into. So I guess I hopped into the family business, so to speak. Tried that out for a minute, and I liked it. You know, I liked being, you know, I knew the people from similar experiences and whatnot. I felt like I had a lot to just the public. But after you're seeing some of the same things, like the violence over and over and over again, I realized it was kind of time to make a shift, because I felt like it was starting to weigh on my and that's not something we really talk a lot about, you know, as police officers. It's kind of like one of them things where it's like, you know, if you deal with it or quit because you can't handle it. So the Oakland County Sheriff's Office down in Pontiac now, and I've been down there for almost 2 years. So I'm a school resource officer inside of Pontiac. So I enjoy that. I've always liked working with kids. I feel like they're the most, and they're not as set in their ways as adults are, and it's a lot of room for growth. So like my passion has always been just kind of giving back to the youth. So I've always tried to do that before. So that's pretty much a little bit about me.
But so I'm gonna hop right off into the book, man. Now I know you mentioned that you grew up in a home where your dad was a police officer, and in reading the book, one of the things that I was kind of not necessarily perplexed by, but one of the things that caught me off guard was your perception of the police. You talked about it, how I'll let you elaborate on it, but you had a different perspective of the police versus, you know what I'm saying, the people from your neighborhood or, you know what I'm saying, like close friends and stuff like that.
Right. So when I looked at it from like how I saw him in that role, it was like, you know, it was something I know. Just cause like growing up through school, knew like, oh, your dad's feds, he 12 and this and that. So they kind of teased me a lot enough, but they knew he was cool. So they was like, oh, he cool, like he ain't like the rest of them. That was like my dad and like some of his coworkers was like some of my only interest. So growing up in Flint, obviously, when I got to college age or drive, I would get pulled over from time to time by different police agencies, redirect my mindset, you know, because I'm like, dang, you know, like mom here treat me like I'm a criminal. You know what I'm saying? I got license, registration, all of every encounter I had was always like it always kind of left me like, dang, like Wills. And so I had enough of those encounters, and I was like, okay, I got the bright idea, like, okay, maybe if I join the ranks, you know, I'll be able to change narrative. And then I found out a short time after that, it took me a long time to do that because it's just, you know, it's just kind of like the system, man. And even with the amount of, you know, black officers that you do, enough of us that's willing to, you know what I'm saying, stand up and just speak against that we see as it relates to like racial profiling and things of that nature.
Gotcha. Yeah, talk about that's a good point you make. Talk about what it is to be an officer and also, you know, experiencing things that from your perspective are being done incorrectly, and then, you know, what the process is to speak out about those things, or how difficult it might be to speak out or even try to get changes made to certain policies.
So just to speak on the policies first, like, so most most organizations have been kind of like, you know, written in years, you know, every so often do they go and revise them and change things based on like, or whatever that might come up that might prompt them to make some changes. I feel like it was always a struggle because I felt like I've had to choose, like, do I want to be a black man? Do I want to be a police officer? Right? So, community, at least in the Flint community, it was like I already knew what the expectation was. What they thought of me, it was just kind of like, oh, you were Uncle Tom ass dude, you know, wrong team, and this, that, and the third. Why you join that? And I would always find, you know, like explain my reasoning for why I was doing it, not realizing that no matter what, because they already had enough negative encounters with the police to them seeing me, a black man in uniform, just almost kind of made the situation. Knew kind of what to expect from a white officer, but seeing a black officer was like, it was still like, I don't mess with y'all still, you know. So a while to find that balance and just realize that, you know, you go out there, you try to treat everybody fair. And I mean, that's pretty much all you find that. And I actually do talk about this in the book, that I have seen other officers do things that were criminal, you know, speaking out was kind of like frowned upon, you know, because it was like that little blue wall of silence and all that stuff you hear in movies and stuff like that.
That's what I wanted to talk about too.
Yeah,
so that's a real thing, huh? This blue wall,
man, it's a real thing for sure. And it's just like, you know, it's just like it's similar to like the streets, you know. It's like if you in the streets and you doing, you're not supposed to tell on your people, and it's the same expectation on the officer side, you know. It's like, okay, if we do something wrong or we get caught investigation or whatever it is, like, we supposed to be on the same team, you know, even the integrity. And that was just something I wasn't really willing to do, you know, so I didn't. And the time that I did, I got backlash for it.
So this blue wall affects an officer into doing or not doing the right thing. Is that what you're trying to say? In a way,
it's like a code of silence, man. That's pretty much all it is. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil type thing. So it's like Yeah, he's not gonna be the one to say that officer did that. They gonna have to just figure it out. A lot of times it kind of comes down to like it would be like my word against the city, and if it ain't no video evidence, which is not confidence now, considering that we got body cams and mics and dash cams and stuff like that. It kind of hides those types of scenarios. You know, it's like this is gonna come to light now. You know, we required to wear body cams, required to, you know, have mics. So if you caught doing something you're not supposed to be doing, I mean, they ain't really just like the Tyree Nichols situation. Like that was all on body cams and dash cams. So it's like, how can you hide that? You know what I'm saying?
It seemed like the most damning evidence in that Tyree Nichols, it didn't really come from a body cam. It came from that tower cam. Because you couldn't really tell from the body cam like exactly what was going on, but when you saw it from that tower, you saw exactly what was going on. And I know every time I've ever been pulled over by police, if it's a white officer, I'm nervous. But if it's somebody that looks like us, I'm not as nervous. But after watching the Tyree Nichols incident, I'm like, hey, they all the same to me now. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's kind of really put us in a bad spot, you know. You see situations like that happen, and you like, whenever, I ain't gonna lie, whenever lying about police brutality, like I always assume it's a white officer. I never assume that it's a black officer. So before I even watched it, I had like briefly skimmed over the headlines, but I didn't even watch it, you know, because I don't really like brutality videos. It's just like triggering for me. I don't watch it. But for this one, you know, they were all black officers, and then they dropped it on CNN, and I watched it, and I covered it because I was just like, man, that's just crazy that, you know, that they themselves in a situation like that would just do that to a person, you know, and passed away from it. So it's like, now it's like, I feel like black officers are at a disadvantage because they're still like a white dominated field, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I would say it's similar to Flint in terms of like the ethnic groups, you know, with it being predominantly minority size. It just, you know, they have a lot of work there, so you just would assume that they would understand like today, and they just will make, you know, better decisions. But it's easy to get caught up. You just do what you want to do, you know, because a lot of people don't know. They don't know their rights for real. They just ain't trying to go to jail. They trying to go to jail. I feel it, you know. I'm like, shit, in today's climate, shit, I might be trying to get, you know, I'm not trying to get you know, assaulted or whatever, because I feel now as a cop, like I've been pulled over multiple times, like while being a sworn off. I get nervous. I still get nervous. I can't really shake it. And I got a whole bad thing, and I'm like, man, let me make sure my license and insurance and everything is right, because I wanted to turn into nothing. Because I know, like, what that perception is, you know, they gonna see me earrings on. I got, it's summertime. I got the tats on. They ain't gonna think I'm no cop unless they see, you know.
Yeah. Do you think it comes from like fear? Like they just don't know, except in what they see in like rap videos, and then because black folks is vilified on the 6 o'clock news every day. So do you think a lot of that stuff comes from like fear?
I think some of it comes from fear. You know, we all get like implicit and explicit bias and stuff like that. So, but I think a lot of have like conscious thoughts about different you know, and then if they grow up, like say, when I worked in, it wasn't that many of us that was actually from the city. You know, it was the suburbs or from like a little small town where they never really interacted with, so whatever it is too. So it goes back to what you're saying, like they would opinions based on what they see on TV or rap videos and stuff. When they encounter us, they just assume that we are the same. So it does play a role, and it does kind of cause some people but I don't think it's an excuse to make some of the decisions they out here making. When I went to college, I was around all different kind of people, and I just think a lot of cops are missing those cultural experiences where they've done. You only need a high school diploma to be a police. So a lot of these dudes, they graduating or the military, and all they know is, take orders or structure, and they've never tried to deviate from that. So they don't even really know how to be people for real.
Man.
So.
Yeah, I know in your book you mentioned specifically when you were working for Flint, like the white officers, basically they come to work and then they go back home, but you're of the community.
Right.
You have to police different because you in that community, and you're not going outside.
Right.
When you check out for work, you still in the community. You're not going somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's tough for me because I feel like, y'all seen the movie Paid in Full?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, great
Classic.
Great film.
That's one of my favorite. That's like being from the city. Like I'm driving down a night shift on a summer night. I feel like Money Mitch, man. Everybody know me. They like, oh, Q. It's like, like I got a lot of love and respect because I'd rather see me do it than like somebody else, right? Because they like, man, he always been a good dude. Me, like with my family, living in Flint, it's just so much history to Flint. It's like my daughter go to school in Flint, my wife work in Flint, my granny, I could pull up to their house on the shift, get some food or whatever. So I feel like for the people who don't have that experience, they can come into a city or any city and they can treat people any kind of way because they know they ain't gonna see them for real. It's like I would always do my job, but I would always the possibility that I might run into this dude again,
Yeah.
at a park or something like that. And like that happened, where on a summer night, I think this was back in like 20. So I hadn't been on a job that long. We went to a popular club, rowdy. Fights, shootings, stabbings, whatever you name it. So we get out the car. It's already some officers there trying to clear out the lot. He on a whole nother tip. He drunk. It's his birthday. He got a pocket full of. We trying to escort him off the property. And so as we escorting him off the property, are fighting, with the officer that grabbed him initially. So, we over there to, try to put hands on him and everything to get him in handcuffs. So we got, once he handcuffed on the ground, another officer on like the grass area, he walks over and kicks my man in the face, but and everything. So I'm looking up like, what is you on? Like that wasn't even that cuff. I get he running his mouth and saying things, but he can't even defend himself. And if the roles was reversed, that's an arrestable offense right there. You know what I'm saying? In that moment, we couldn't really, trying to control the chaotic scene. But when I had an opportunity to, address a student. Like, man, that shit ain't cool. You know, that's not cool to do things like that. A short time later, I ended up celebrating my 10th Flint, obviously. Guess who I see at the reunion? My man, they got. So he there, he with his people, he with his wife. I went to school with his wife, so she know me, and he all mobbed up with his dudes, you know, duty. I'm drinking, having a good time with my sister, and just, I see them looking at me from across the field because they already know who I am. And when that situation happened, it frustrated me because I'm like, I didn't injure this man, you know,
Yeah.
but I still live in Flint here. And you did this and you going back to your community where you not have to, you know. So that was like a uncomfortable experience happened, but I mean, we definitely locked eyes, and it was just like one of them unspoken things. You know, cop, did it be that? And I'm like, okay, you know, what can I do? You know, but
You was over there like,
it's just
what's
like,
up?
yeah. I'm just like, look, you here, man. You know, so and we ended later, and he ended up winning some money, you know, because he got kicked in his face. So
So I know that you.
I was.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you good.
I was gonna say some of the things that you talked about is, you know, how you became a police officer. One, your dad, you know what I'm saying, was a police officer, but also how you wanted to change and impact the community. And I think, you know what I'm saying, you mentioned in the book, like you thought it was just gonna be, you know what I'm saying, a cakewalk. Like I can just put on my suit and my badge and my gun and go change the community, but you ran up against a ton of obstacles. Do you feel like you've impacted your community, or do you feel like, well, obviously there's still a lot more work to do, but I just want to get your perspective on that.
Well, like it's a lot more work to be done. And one thing my dad, he was like, you know, sometimes, you know, standing up, you know, that you might be standing alone. And I feel like that's true, you know, because, you know, everybody doesn't have enough courage to, you know, to be like that. I don't want to say eyeball, but it's like, nah, I'm not going for this. This is what I believe in. You know, some people, they might shoot you a text like, I can't publicly support you, but you know, I feel the same. What I think for the time that I was in the city, for the people that know me and my family, I was working on the streets and working in the schools that I left a very good, you know, in my work. So much so that when I decided to leave the Flint Police, you know, they pretty much were asking me to stay. You know, like, please stay, you know, opportunities coming up, but I just knew that it was time to move on. As it relates to as a whole, I definitely think it's a lot of work to be done, especially like our minority communities, not just in Flint, but just across the country. Just like diversity, like just cultural sensitivity, bias, and just all of these things that people are conscious of, like not conscious enough to make the switch. So I feel like myself and some other like-minded officers that I've met that's willing to just do doing the wrong thing, or doing, you know, doing the wrong thing, thinking somebody to it. So, you know, me and my wife, we argue all the time about these, you know, brutality videos, and talking about it, like, you know, I hear her perspective. She always be like, you know, oath to, y'all swore an oath to protect and serve and have integrity and all of those things. But that's really true, and I feel like if you're doing the opposite of that, it's like it's being in the job, times that we see our politicians and our police officers and judges and all of these authoritative roles that's doing the opposite of what they, do for. So I just try to lead by example the best way I can.
What
So
go ahead, B-Dub, you got it.
now I was just going to ask him about, I know you spoke earlier about the qualifications. So let's just say I'm coming out of high school and I want to join the force.
Mhm.
What exactly do I do and how long is the process?
So it all kind of like every state has like a different police license. It's called MCOs, which is like Michigan Coalition Standards, right? So anybody that's a police officer in Michigan is MCO certified. It varies from agency to agency as it relates to age, but most agencies allow to join the force. So you graduate high school, you got your apply for that agency. If they accept, 18, some might not accept you. You pretty much just, fill out the job application just like you would anywhere else. It's extensive with your background checks and drug tests and different things like that. But criteria in Michigan, you gotta take like a written test, basic grammar, nothing crazy. And they kind of rank you in different. And then you also take like a physical agility test, which is also very. So upon completing that, you go to a police academy. It's very like the police academy I went to was 16 weeks. So about 4, to be responsible for, the livelihood of others. And then you got to be like 6 months, depending on like the agency and what they're. So it all kind of depends, but in my opinion, it's a very short amount of time to be, policing some communities and stuff. And I'm old enough to be in a capacity like that because you even fully develop, you know what I'm saying? So to be in that role, you can't legally purchase ammunition or carry a gun concealed or anything of that nature. So it's like I don't really think it's the best move, but do it.
Mr. Wheeler, I was going to ask you, what prompted your departure from the Flint Police Department?
I kind of feel undervalued there, man, to be honest. I say that is because I worked really hard like every day. It wasn't like a time I went out there and I just wasn't, like putting on or doing all. I was professional and I wasn't out here getting in trouble. I had no scandals behind me. It was kind of like it was just kind of like, certain like retention. A lot of people were leaving and going to different agencies. It held over a lot. And again, it was a lot of high crime. After a while, it just kind of got mentally taxing.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that I had a baby. So I was like, man, I need to put myself in a better financial position where I could actually grow and do a little bit more. So and kind of set aside the fact that I had 3 generations of family there. I just decided it was time to move on, and it was because when I left, I felt like I had that like survivor's remorse. still back there, like still struggling and working hard. I got better with that decision, and I was like, I just had to make the best move, and I'm not looking back at this point.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah.
Hey, Quion, there's a chapter in your book. It's titled "They Hate Me," and I believe this was the part where you got into the George Floyd incident. And you mentioned, I believe earlier in the conversation that, what I'm saying, you're a black man, but as a police officer, it's described as blue. And a lot of times when we get into these discussions, they talk about, Black Lives Matter. The response is Blue Lives Matter. And I ain't gonna lie, man, like that pisses me off because blue is not it's not an ethnicity, it's not a person, it's not a gender, but there's so that's how do you feel about that, like that term when like Blue Lives Matter? What does that mean to you?
To me, it doesn't really mean anything to me, like per se. Like I'm not, like I know that I'm a police officer. I understand like what they mean when they say it, and what they, like, oh, I'm a police officer. So because I'm a police officer, I'm and my life matters just as much as this person's life. I kind of think it's bogus to a degree, just simply because they kind of turn it like a competition, right? Where it's just like,
yeah,
I've had co-workers and they're like, okay, well, Black Lives Matter, then why do y'all kill each other, right? And they'll start conversations like that. And the first couple of times I was encountering with a conversation like that, I ain't gonna lie, like I took it real personal. It was very emotional. Like, man, you got me messed up. Like, but then I started like looking beyond like what he said, like the narrative that's kind of like painted of us as out there, like whether it be like our music or what we doing in entertainment, and like what they see us doing is who they think we are. They think we're all like that. When a police officer kills somebody, it's like, oh, y'all only want to kill someone, but when such and such shoots somebody, for step I'll have nothing to say. So for a minute, I was, cause just a lot of the violence that I did experience in Flint, and it just always so happened to be us against us. But I never identified with the slogan like, oh, blue lives. Just, I think it's insensitive to use that against what the under behind Black Lives Matter is. And my thoughts on it.
Can't stand when people say, question. Can't stand when people say, why do we kill each other? Blacks kill blacks,
right.
They kill whites. Everybody does it. A lot of that stuff is, I think murder is like a crime of like proximity. You probably doing it, killing people that's close to you. So I mean, every race does it. It's just not black folks just killing black folks. That's a stupid saying to me, man.
Right.
I mean, statistics.
That's just kind of.
Oh, go ahead, Quion.
No, I was just saying, like, that's just what the media like put out there.
Yeah, you never hear the stats on white crime or Asian on Asian crime.
You don't.
Because they don't want you to hear them stats.
Yeah. And you will see an article like in Chicago this weekend. It's like, okay, it was a school, it was a gay club, let's talk, or whatever it might be. It's just like, I just think what the media puts out there, just like it further, like, like moves that narrative that we just have that's not really the case. And it's really frustrating because like you saying, like about like proximity and like where you are, like it's all killing each other, but somehow black people killing each other is just always
True. Yeah.
as it relates to cops killing people.
It's blacks killing blacks, and then they always bring up Chicago. That's the two
Yeah, that
points
was
they
real
bring up
Chicago.
right there.
I swear.
Chicago and blacks killing blacks.
Yeah.
That is it right there.
Yeah.
It's gotta be another talking point for them, man. Besides them two right there.
Yeah.
Um,
It has to be.
your book, like I said, it's my first time meeting you. It's all of our first time actually connecting. But your book is really introspective. I feel like I know you just by reading the book. And I want to, and if you're not comfortable talking about it, we can move on. But you had a chapter, the rock bottom chapter. You know what I'm saying? And there was a situation where you were at your low and you made a phone call. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
if like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, it's crazy because I was just talking to my homeboy about this the other day. We was just talking to a guy we knew that appeared to be in good spirit, right? And he was this very sharp guy. And so that particular chapter in the book where, man, I feel like how I got to that place. You know, I feel like I had just been going and going and going, like doing my things, such things, like not trying to bring some of the stuff that I was trying to navigate through some of the struggles that I was having at home. Remember that night, man, I was at home by myself, man, and like for advice. You know, you can call somebody like, oh man, I'm doing this, you know, but that just felt like I feel like I had already tired everybody out, expressing my concern about things. And you know, everybody had those like cliche responses like, man, just pray about it, things will get better. And I had convinced myself that things would, you know. And for so long, I had always like avoid just going to therapy or whatever it was like introduced to that. Like when I had struggles growing up, my dad would just be like, "Keep that's what make a man," or whatever it might be. But we never had feelings and stuff like, how do you process this? So on that particular night, man, I'm like, I'm gonna call him, you know. I'm gonna call this suicide hotline. Suicidal, you know. I didn't seen a lot of stuff. I didn't experience a lot of stuff. And nobody where I'm coming from, my family don't understand. You know, I feel like when I called, and they put me on hold, man.
What?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man, I read that page back 3 times to make sure I was reading it right, man. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Damn.
They put me on, and it was in that moment where I was like, it was like a little voice that was like, he's coming to save you. You know, like you gotta pick yourself up. And I just on a period of time just thinking about all my problems and stuff and how I feel like you know, just get out of them. And that was just like a very sobering moment for me. I sat in my for hours. I was just sitting there, just like processing everything. Just like, okay, how do I myself out of this space? Like, how do I move forward? You know. So a difficult chapter for me to write. Just really because of the vulnerability, exposing myself to, you know, because a lot of people don't like to admit to low. When I put it out, after the book dropped, man, like so many like reached out to me like, man, I was feeling the same way during this time, and I just always been at it. And I felt like that I was really kind of helping people, you know, are open and honest. And even though I didn't have a plan or anything or how I was gonna do it, it was just a feeling I couldn't shake. So so yeah, I was like, it felt good to get it out just because it was something known for a while. But yeah, man, since then I started to try to control my inner peace with stuff like being around so much death and seeing so much tragedy all the time, like something like inexplainable to your mind, you know. I felt like I just got real hot of emotion. I wasn't really turned on to certain things that I normally would. I didn't want. It was just a very dark space, and no matter how hard I tried to climb out, sinking in deeper and deeper. So, tell you what really pulled me out of it, I think I just started being more like, I gotta get through this, you know. I was like, if they gonna put me on hold, then keep going, because clearly I can't depend on them. This their only job, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
for sure, man.
No problem.
It was deep, man. I'm sitting there reading. It was like, you know, I called the hotline and I was on hold for 20 minutes.
That's crazy.
I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I guess, obviously, I've never called, but I would just assume that they would have a sense of urgency when somebody does call.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot can change in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
take a second.
For sure.
Yeah. That's deep, man. So, Quion, once again, I thought the book was powerful, man. I really enjoyed it. What's next for you? Once again, like I said, reading the book, I feel like I know you because you were really vulnerable in the book, and you gave the world a lot of you in the book. So is the long-term goal to continue in policing, law enforcement? Like, what's next for you?
Great question, man. Honestly, like, you know, being a law enforcement officer, and I've talked to my close friend, just like wanting something different, but kind of feeling stuck, right? So, master's degree in public administration, I got that like 7 years ago this year. And so when I got my master's degree, I got it under the condition that I was going to just walk into this like 6-figure job and going to take off, and it didn't really flow that way for me. So getting into law enforcement, I simply because, you know, I don't really need no degrees to be that, right? So when I initially told that my education was going to pave all of these ways, and I was going to move on, everybody would pick me up, only to find out that it just made me more of a target, you know, just because people were jealous of that. You think he is coming in here with all his education? You know, I ain't go to school, and I'm doing just as good as he. So I started like feeling that envy, and then I realized that I wrote the book, that I realized that I could be more. I got so like inundated in like being a police officer that I just felt like that's all I had to be, outlet or creative expression. And so I had this book idea at the time I started the police academy, but I kept procrastinating, and it was that low point that I started writing. And to be a confident guy, but I didn't really know like what people was gonna think when they read. Like, man, you should have kept this shit. Like, I was thinking of all this negative stuff. Because in school, when I was in grade school, I wanted to be a writer, but I'm like, I ain't no New York best time seller and whatnot. So, and I saw, man, all of these people just came. I think I sold like two the day of the book signing. Like, I was just like, that's crazy, And then I started like getting people was reaching out to me from different avenues. Like, hey, told us about this. We want this. We think you should do that. And it wasn't really in December of last year that I felt like I could really branch out. So my biggest goal for the year is just to continue like becoming who I am, like, breaking free from those expectations that people have, where they just keep tapping into my creative side. And I'm currently starting my second book. A lot of people wanted me to on some of the stuff that was in there as it relates to like therapy, depression, just policing overall. And that made me feel good. I got done with the book and they was just like, all right, cool. Like, what's next though? It was bought it, never reading this stuff again. Better luck next time. It was like so my biggest goal, man, is just keep putting myself out there, taking opportunities where I can speak on different platforms, to see where that takes me. I'm not really pigeonholed to law enforcement when I first started. Like, somebody could call me tomorrow and be like, hey, we got this. We working as a behavior specialist, and it's a comparable pay, and I'd be like, all right. That's where I'm at.
Well,
Right.
I mean, I can say that you're doing it big. You're on the world's largest beer and pop culture podcast, so
hey, that's a step, man.
Yeah.
I just ain't had my beer today.
Well, when you drop that second book, you can come back on and give us a review.
Oh yeah,
We'd love to have you back.
Sure.
Yeah, man, you definitely welcome back anytime. But once again, Becoming Me by Quion Wheeler. I know it's available on Amazon because that's where I got it. Drop your socials. How can people connect with you? Get a copy of the book, or I'm saying, just chop it up with you. Like I said, man, I was excited to talk to you because we was pre-pod. We were talking about, man, over about the last 2 decades since, internet and police brutality has been a big thing, and we got camera phones and we can see it instantly. Like, we haven't had an opportunity to talk to anybody in law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to, to get somebody on who has that perspective and is in the field. And it's actually, to be honest, it's good to talk to a Black person. You know what I mean? Because you are a Black man, so you understand the challenges of being a Black man, but also you have to balance, you are this police officer, and there's a certain expectation and responsibilities that come with a police officer. I don't know, man. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I couldn't do it, man, because I think the streets would have too much, man. Like, nah, man, like this, it just ain't never been cool, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Plus, you a little bit of a hothead, so.
Yeah.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. Man. Nah, never mind.
You be done popped if you.
You be out here like The Wire, dog.
Man,
robbing drug dealers.
Hey.
He'd be like Denzel, man. He'd be riding around all clean.
I was just gonna say Alonzo, man.
Yeah. He would clearly be.
It wasn't until I got a little older that I realized that was only one day. With Alonzo.
That was a hell of a day, man. That was a hell of a day.
Like, all that happened in one day, I would have quit. I'm like, I'm done. I can't do it.
Hey, we got to give
Okay.
Quion his props real quick, man. In the history of our show, we always ask people at the end to drop their socials and all of that stuff. This man put it in the chat, so it visually appeared on the show, man. That's a first. That's an H&S first right there.
Mic drop right there.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I thought you said, I could. Oh, you want me to say it?
You just said
Hey, it was
So
sweet
I
how you
got-
did it though, man. Like everybody can see it too, man. So
I got so I'm only on Instagram.
the key to
you
success.
know.
I saw
So
it.
my
You know what I mean?
Instagram success, right? So it's QUI_TO_. For those who can't spell, that's 2 C's and 2 S's. That's
It's a difficult word to spell, man. It always trips people up.
Yeah, so and it's a website. Obviously the book is available on Amazon, but I do purchase on my website, which is www. How many W's did I say? It was 3 W's. So www.comingmeq as my first initial .com, and you go on there and you can click the link to directly purchase the book. What I've been doing, kind of like signing the book for those who purchase on the website. Like I put their name, show my appreciation for those who purchase. But if Amazon is a easier route, now you just type in "Becoming Me" and you'll see like a list to come up. So just look for the black white cover. And
Oh,
you
man.
can't miss it.
Hey, hold that joint up again, man.
That's
Yeah.
dope, man. That's dope.
Yeah, like I said, it's a dope book, man.
I got one here too. Yeah.
I got the back pages where you had like friends and family write you letters and reflections. I still got to read that part, but
Mm-hmm.
I said, man, it kept me engaged, and I started at about probably like 9:30, and I was up to like midnight because I was like, man, I want to be well versed when I hop on this podcast, and I just kept reading, man, because like I said, man, it's really introspective. And I didn't expect that. Like, I didn't expect you to be so vulnerable, and I didn't expect you to talk about some of the things that you talked about. But definitely, I would have, and we didn't really touch on it, but you really go and, start talk about the therapy and all that. And that's something that us as Black men or Black people in the entire culture, we don't talk about that a lot. So I'm advising anybody that can pick it up.
Right.
Real easy read. But once again, man, we want to thank you for joining us, taking the time out to share your story. It's probably been a little therapeutic for us because we ain't had an opportunity to talk to anybody in law enforcement, man. We haven't been, excuse me, we haven't had a chance to kind of express like some
Right.
frustrations with the system and how it is. And like I said, man, that Tyree Nichols thing, I ain't gonna lie, man, it messed me up because I've never witnessed Black men
Right.
with another Black man, and I lost.
Right.
Because I used to say it all the time. I'm like, man, we need more people in our community to police our communities. We need more Black people. After that, I was like, man, nah, they all the same. I'm like, it's the culture of the police. I'm like, it's not black or white anymore.
Right.
It's the entire culture of policing, and I no longer have faith in policing. But to have a brother like you on here who talks about, hey, I've spoken up, and here's what happened when I spoke up, and I've tried to speak up, and it goes, you know what I'm saying, it's overlooked, or, you know what I'm saying, you get kind of blackballed in the system. Like, I understand, like it's hard for people to speak up, and we'd be fighting this fight forever, man. That's kind of how I feel.
Do that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once again, thank you for joining us. This is the Hops and Stocks podcast, episode 77. I believe.
Yep. Yeah.
We are signing off.
77.
Peace.
Peace.
Appreciate y'all, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Now.
Be a shell of a man if we ever depart. From my heart to I'm riding with you. I'm riding with you.
Hops and Stocks podcast is presented by Hunter Spoke Media Group. We encourage our listeners to drink responsibly. Please note, we are not financial advisors. We do not offer or provide financial advice. Trademark copyrighted by Hunter Spoke Media Group.